Hello.
Hey everyone, hello.
Just in case if you're new here, I'm Bray,
And I am Glenn.
and this is the musical QuaranStream where we talk about musical theater.
Yeah, we've been doing this pretty much since the whole shelter-in-place, stay-at-home order has been...
Around like St. Patrick's Day, so
Yeah, it was
we've
around
been here
then.
for a couple months.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about kind of what we've been doing as far as theater. We watched the National Theater production of Twelfth Night this past weekend, which was real good.
It's an excellent production. It's still up on YouTube. If you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, you should go look it up. It's excellent.
And Frankenstein is coming on Friday, so we'll probably want to watch that as well, because I think I've watched 4 shows and Glenn's watched about 3, and they've always been like amazing.
Yeah, you guys might remember from the last time, I was like, oh, right after we finish this, I'll go look up Treasure Island and watch. It was too late. Treasure Island was gone.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bristol is with us. Jenny is with us.
Hello.
Hi, guys. Nice to see you.
Yes, my hair is getting significantly longer and puffier as the quarantine goes on.
Mm-hmm.
We were like starting really strong and like, oh, we're going to dress up nice, and now we're just like, do a show.
Like, I've got my OSU shirt on. And
The QuaranStream Bake Off number 2 is happening right at this very second. So I'd be very surprised if you were watching that along with us as well. And Lola's here in the corner.
Yes.
Hi, Lola. What else have we been doing kind of theater related? Watching theater, doing theater.
Oh, man.
It's like we saw our friend Jack Bennett had something last Monday with his, I think his partner was in a play. They were doing a reading. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Our friend Vanessa Ragland had, she's like one of the top women in entertainment right now. Yes. She had a piece in, the New York Times?
No, not New York Times, LA Times. She was in the Los Angeles Times as an important part of the LA art scene.
Yeah. So we know folks.
Yes.
Just name dropping all over the place.
We know people. Including Lola.
Including Lola, most important people.
Yes.
The next episode of Bleeding Love, the podcast I've been listening to, is happening tomorrow night. So I'm going to be really looking forward to that.
Yes.
But if you guys know of anything else, if anybody watching the show out there is doing a theatrical project and wants to let us know, we'd be happy to share that. Our friend Sam Turlington is going to release a video in 2 days, I think, which we're really excited about. She hasn't done anything like this, and so I think that's going to be real good.
Yeah, so it's lots of fun stuff is happening out there. We need to, I'm having enough trouble keeping up with what I'm supposed to be doing for this show anyway, but we do need like a central place that we can set up and let people know about some of the awesome stuff that's going on. Yeah,
I think a local group here, Live Arts, is about 30 years old, and they're doing a play reading called 30 for 30.
Yeah.
That's coming up in the near future. I just got an email about that. So we'll try to, whenever we post our videos, maybe post some of the big things that we've been really enjoying in virtual theater or virtual performance.
Yeah.
Of course, we've still been getting into YouTube. We watch a lot of content creators because, as we all are having a hard time, and that's kind of an easy way to support folks through their views and their ad revenue and stuff like that. So
yes, which right now on YouTube, I think it's worth mentioning, a lot of the advertisers on YouTube, who are some of the biggest ad spends out there, have apparently pulled their support back from YouTube during COVID-19. So a lot of YouTube guys right now are having trouble actually finding sponsors for their videos. So, if you have any YouTubers who you particularly like, not going to say me, but, I'm on YouTube. But if you have any YouTubers you particularly like, this is a good time to look into if they have a Patreon or a Ko-Fi or something like that, where you can send them a couple of bucks directly, because a lot of the YouTubers that I enjoy watching right now, they're having a hard time getting, many of them have actually made this into their full-time job, and they're having a hard time finding advertisers now.
So talking about our contest still going on,
Mm-hmm.
I think we've already really picked 2 winners, if I'm
Yeah.
100% sure, because we've had 2 entries.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you're up for the count. If you are out there and you have been waiting on the perfect entry of what is Turkey Lurkey time, please feel free to comment below if you're on YouTube, or of course tweet at us.
Yes.
I'll kind of show you what I've been working on recently as part of the package. So you'll get a shirt. You'll get a couple bars of soap that I've been making, and I have been turning out masks.
Yes.
So these are following CDC guidelines. They're 10 inches by 6 inches. They're double-sided, so you can tell which side is by your mouth and which side is out to the world. They're all going to have these little elastic ear ties to them. And that's basically it. I have several different colors. I have more fabric coming. So this is kind of a gift that we wanted to include, like a shirt, a mask, a couple bars of soap. That's basically all you need for a good quarantine. So we figured, that's our gift from the QuaranStream to your quarantine. If there's anything else you were thinking that you might like to see, we actually have Glenn doing a little caricature of our fantastic Simon logo there, which is an original character from Glenn. But we'd be happy to include, any of your suggestions. So if you have some ideas of if you want another mask, we're kind of doing that debate, or if you'd like a little crochet handicraft that I've been making. Mm-hmm. We got some stuff to send you, and we're happy to kind of keep the post office in business. Mm-hmm. I actually just made Glenn run out to the post office with me today to deliver some packages to some folks that I work with and to my folks that are down in Florida.
Yeah, and if you're interested in entering the contest, you can leave comments or you can tweet at us. These are our Twitter names. Yep. She's Breeze's Cheese. I'm Doctor Who. And you can just tag us in a tweet. The whole idea is, a while back we covered Promises, Promises. Mm-hmm. There's a musical number in Promises, Promises called Turkey Lurkey Time. Most of the people who are watching us right now already know the details and everything. But still, if you're catching us for the first time, we have no clue what's going on during Turkey Lurkey Time.
We had a good guess.
We've got a good guess. But we have no clue what's genuinely going on, so we're looking for the most creative explanations of what the heck is going on during Turkey Lurkey Time. So you can, like I said, you can tweet it at us, or you can leave it in the comments on YouTube, and we will be happy to enter you in our contest for a little prize package, like Bree just said, with a mask, a shirt, bars of soap. Really nice little, make your quarantine special sort of thing.
Yeah. So it's a happy little gift that we're happy to provide. And, thanks everybody from kind of watching us from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So without further ado, we are in our 2 weeks of pitching.
Yes.
So we had an idea that we would do kind of what's commonly seen on Broadway now, which is a lot of jukebox musicals and a lot of movie musicals. Movies that were very popular, then made into musicals. I've actually been watching a YouTuber called Wait in the Wings, and he does musicals that have failed. He talks pretty, spectacularly on things like Spider-Man, Turn Off the Dark. Mm-hmm. He just did one up for his season 2 on Beetlejuice, which was a movie musical. And so I thought that'd be kind of an interesting segue into my pitch for a musical. I have a Wikipedia up because we did watch the movie recently. It's not something that I have memorized by heart, like, The Princess Bride or anything like that. But I still think it would be a fantastic musical, and it is Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Yes.
Which it was in 1986. Mm-hmm. I was like 5 years old, so I didn't see it when it came out, but my mom let me watch it when I was older, and I loved it, and I thought it was great. It was Penny Marshall's directing debut, starring Whoopi Goldberg. What I really like about it to start is it stars an African-American woman, and she is a computer programmer for a large bank. I think, when you kind of see the credits and everything, it's like a Pointer Sisters song, and she's in her apartment, which is like a nice apartment. It's not bad, but you can tell it's an older apartment. It's a walk-up. it kind of looks like she might be in the village because
Yeah.
it's a pretty diverse group, but still pretty like nice. And then she goes downtown to work in the financial district, where she basically transfers money to international banks, and that's kind of her job. Is back in the day, it wasn't all these algorithms; it was essentially just managed by these people, and it was the computer software engineers in New York talking with people in Germany and France and all over the Europe mostly.
Yeah.
So one day what ends up happening is she gets this message, and she's known for being like real chatty and real kind and really likes people and really wants to help folks out. So she's been giving folks recipes and dating advice, and it's not just, okay, here's the transaction. She really wants to get to know folks. And
Yeah.
so she gets this really weird thing, and she, of course, wants to help whoever this person is, and then basically kind of learns that because he's speaking kind of cryptically, that he is a spy, and he's enmeshed in a pretty nefarious plot to have him murdered.
Yeah.
in like the other side of the Cold War, so he's stuck in like Russia or something like that.
And he has a code name, which his code name is
Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Yeah, Jumping Jack Flash.
So kind of just rewinding a little bit, I really love, a whole heck of a lot of, African-American women on Broadway. I mean, from Audra McDonald in Ragtime all the way to Bettina Miller, Adrienne Warren,
and
Celia Gooding.
Whoopi Goldberg as well has made several appearances on Broadway, who stars in Jumping Jack Flash.
Yep, and one of her other movies, Sister Act, was actually made into a musical with Alan Menken.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's a precedent for it. I think the one big thing is it is 20th Century Fox production, which means I think it's owned by Disney now.
Yeah.
So it could be a possibility. I think they were kind of saying the two big players right now on Broadway is either Warner Brothers, and so if it's a Warner Brothers movie, they have their own production company, or if it's Disney, they have their own production company. Of course, I think Disney is doing a lot of other things. I think Disney has a lot of plans because, of course, all the movie musicals have been really big sellers for them, and this might be a bit on the back burner, as it were, but I still think it would be good.
Let's see now, just real quick, before we get farther into this. Disney on Broadway, they've been on there for a couple of decades now.
Oh, yeah, 20 years.
So they've done Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin has been on Broadway, The Lion King, of course.
Little Mermaid.
And they're currently working on Hercules for Broadway as well.
Yep, Hercules just, I think, did something this past summer as production. They've done Hunchback for a real long time, and that's never made it to Broadway, but it's been out at La Jolla.
It's workshopping around and everything, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, like I said, Bedknobs and Broomsticks was out in Chicago, and this will come on as a later pitch, but I also think Hocus Pocus would be great.
Oh, yeah. But so it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not the type of movie that Disney has been putting on Broadway.
Right.
But they did just get the entire 20th Century Fox library. So it's a possibility that there could be a movie. There could be a Broadway adaptation of this movie.
And I finally found this video, and if you have been following me on Twitter, I was so excited, where I think it's Matt Bukele, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, but he does kind of like the every musical ever type of songs. So I was so excited to find this. Somebody retweeted. I was like, this! I was looking for this. And it's literally him playing at a piano, and it's like every opening number to a musical ever, where it's like the whole town comes out, and they're like, the name of the city we live in. The name of the city we live in. And then he's like, you can tell I'm comic relief. I'm a lady who's exhausted by my kids. And it's just really, really funny. But it's like every single time I hear it, I hear like that type of musical that's come out a lot. Where I think Groundhog Day is kind of the biggest offender to me of it. I feel really bad because like it's not like Groundhog Day is a bad musical, but I think it came out with that and Freaky Friday, and there's just a lot of things where it's like it was really that. Like there was the exposition song.
Mhm.
And I kind of feel like now I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because I kind of feel like Jumpin' Jack Flash needs that, because what's really done very well in the movie is they're able to give you a perspective on the main character, Terry Doolittle's personality. She's kind of like the first, what I think Larry Wilmore would call blurred, like black nerd.
Mhm.
She loves movies, like really old movies. She has like a lot of really like big goofy props. Like I think like if you think of a typical nerdy human with toys and media, that is what her apartment really looks like. And so I think that there needs to be a bit of an introduction song for her, and maybe it's not so trite as that, but I do think having kind of a bit of an I want, or maybe a bit of an imagination or a desire type of song in the beginning of like, you know, she sits at a computer and she helps people, but you know, she wants this big adventure. You know, she dives into being a spy. Like, in fact, she gets really mad when Jack's like, "This is too dangerous for you," and she's like, "Oh, because I'm a woman," you know.
Yeah.
And I think that would be kind of a nice introduction to her, because you're not going to really be able to have audiences in the theater space being able to kind of focus on, you know, how much she loves Casablanca or something like that. So.
And I've got to say, it's a very 80s movie. It feels very 80s when you watch it and everything. But one of the things that kind of gets me about it is, like you said, she has a very kind of like funky apartment. And this is a movie where she is dragged around the city in a phone booth for an entire car chase scene. And also a movie where at one point she picks up a giant novelty toothbrush and threatens somebody's life with a giant novelty toothbrush. And honestly, all of this is presented in such a way that it's believable.
Yes. Well, and I mean, I just feel like, you know, last year we saw Tootsie on Broadway, and I just can't help but feel like I would have so much rather seen this instead of Tootsie on Broadway, because Tootsie, like, again, there's nothing inherently wrong with it or, you know, the production of it or anything, but I don't think it ever would have been my first choice. And then I think we have Mrs. Doubtfire coming up, and I was like, there's just like a lot of movies that's like, they're perfectly fine movies, but I feel like I like this one so much because it is this enmeshed musical element, and as much as I'd like to say, well, I'd love to have the Rolling Stones catalog on this, they have a lot of money. I don't think that they're going to grant the whole catalog, so I think that there's going to have to be a lot of original songs, and I think that they're going to have to buy Jumpin' Jack Flash. Yes. And I think that's probably why this is not at the top of the production list, because there's a lot of negotiations that kind of have to go on. But Moulin Rouge came out, and they had to like negotiate with like 200 people. So
and I feel like in the case of the song Jumpin' Jack Flash, we've discussed how the scene could work on stage and everything like that. I feel like you're going to have at least that song in it, even if it isn't. Yes, Jenny's chiming in. That is a phenomenal line.
Yeah.
Even if you're not going to do it as a Rolling Stones jukebox musical, you need Jumping Jack Flash.
Yeah.
If only for the reason that it is the title of the show.
Yep.
So, and you probably would need to negotiate the rights just to use it for the title. You might as well also negotiate the rights for it, the scene in the show.
Yeah, and I think like a precedent for it is Pretty Woman the Musical, where they didn't necessarily use all of Roy Orbison's catalog, but they definitely had to get Pretty Woman, and that show had that song at the very end. In fact, it wasn't anywhere in the show, it was just for bows. And then the rest of the show was written by Bryan Adams. It's a completely different, 1980s guy.
So can we talk for just a little bit, though, about the role of the song Jumping Jack Flash in the show?
Well, I love it because I always love those little clever moments. As a writer, I'd love to write clever moments, but I feel like I'm either too convoluted with it, so I can't write cleverly, or I don't know, I'm not clever enough. Like, it's one of the complaints I have about Stephen Moffat's Sherlock, which I love. Like, I love this season. I love the series. I do. But when you're writing very clever characters, you have to, like, kind of be a step ahead of them. You have to be very clever yourself. And sometimes, like, even if you are a very smart person, it's hard to be clever. And so this moment of Jumpin' Jack Flash is you learn that this is this spy's code name, which is kind of cool. And kind of like for 1986, like, shows, oh, this is a fun spy. This is a cool spy. But that's his handle, and then he has to have the secret code. So to know you're friendly, there's a secret code key to be able to communicate with him. And so basically, the key is the key. Yeah. And one of my favorite scenes of all time is with her trying to decode what this key is. And in fact, she sits at home, listens to the whole soundtrack, and she's trying to guess all the lyrics, which I just think is so funny. And then the next day she goes out and buys sheet music. Yeah. So that she could see what it was, because she's like, these lyrics don't make any sense. And
Go ahead.
And so, like, that's kind of what she does. It's like, kind of the very antithesis of what you think a hacker scene is, where, oh, God, I gotta get back key and blockchain and blah, blah, blah. She basically is just sitting there, it's like, crossfire, hurricane. She just starts typing in the things one by one. And I could see that being a very cute song as well.
But I love the scene with her trying to figure out what the passkey is, because she puts on her cassette tape of the Rolling Stones, Jumping Jack Flash, and she's got her notepad out and she's trying to transcribe the lyrics, because this was before the days when you could go on Google and say, Jumping Jack Flash lyrics, Rolling Stones. Bam, there it is. Like, you don't even have to go to a website. Google now literally just gives you the lyrics. Yeah. But she has to sit there and decode it. And it's just that moment of her sitting there being like, I was raised by two lesbians. Speak English, Mick! Yeah. Speak English!
That's one of my favorite lines. Just speak English, Mick. So, I mean, I think that, she's just such a unique character. She doesn't really play into any stereotypes. I think that almost all the characters are really good. Like, we were actually thinking, okay, well, if this wasn't a musical, what movie would it be? And so we said, okay, so for Whoopi Goldberg, for Terry Doolittle, we did pick, like, Nicole Byer from Nailed It, because we love her. And then Glenn came up with the idea, like, Jumpin' Jack Flash would be Chris Hemsworth. Yes. And then there's a CIA agent that comes in kind of at the end to help Terry out. And I said, well, who would that be? And then Glenn was like, John Hamm. And I'm like, I want to see this movie. I'd love to see a remake. If I can't get a movie musical out of it, I'll take a remake with that cast. But anyway, it's like she has a very lovely cast of characters in her office. It's kind of like The Office before The Office was a thing. She has kind of this jerk of a boss, and she has, like, her best friend who's always going out on dates, and a couple of the guys who just kind of, like, razz them, and this, like, poor pregnant lady who can't ever get a chair that fits for her.
You know who would be? Carol Kane plays the friend who has all the dates. You know who would be in the Carol Kane role?
Jane Krakowski.
I was going to say Kristen Schaal.
Oh, there we go.
Both good choices in my mind.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's enough things here that telling the story of, kind of a young black lady who's in tech, in, banking, is an interesting and compelling story. I think also, like, some of the funniest things come from her going to the British consulate and thinking of how poorly she's going to fit in. But there's, like, an evil villain who is at the consulate who's wanting to get Jumpin' Jack Flash murdered. And I said, I'd love to see, like, Idris Elba in that role. Yes. Because, like, I think the thing in the 80s is she was really like, well, I'm a black lady going to the English consulate, like, but, the world is really a different kind of, like, place now, and I think that, being able to play on maybe something a little bit different, like, she just kind of stands out like a sore thumb for other reasons, would be kind of funny.
And I think it is a great movie. It is, we discussed last time when we were talking about Oingo Boingo, how late I discovered Oingo Boingo. I was 6 when Jumpin' Jack Flash came out. And I remember the trailer, and I remember the TV commercials and everything. Never saw the movie until just a couple of years ago, and Brie was like, what do you mean you haven't seen this movie? It's only one of the greatest movies ever.
Well, and I like it a lot, and I think that it kind of explains a lot because I'm like, feminism, yay! And it's starring a woman, female director. Although I also like Gary Marshall, of course, like they have cameos in each other's movies. He's the cop who fishes her out of like the Hudson River after a spy has tried to kill her, and a spy saves her by shoving her in the water. And so, you know, this cop comes and gets her and says, "Oh yeah, you're just a hooker down by the pier," and that's Gary Marshall. And I think that his bit is pretty funny as well. And I think that that would probably be something that should be kept in.
Yes.
And I also think another big scene that I think lends itself to drama is there is this duchess or countess or something. She's very high up, and she used to date this spy, and the rumor is like, well, she couldn't handle the instability of dating a spy, which I think also builds up Terry's character as like, she's a unique person. Like, she's excited about being a spy. She's excited about being in danger. She really wants to help people. So it's just kind of showing like how she's a better romantic match as well. But anyway, she finds this lady who has been having an all-day spa day at Elizabeth Arden on the Upper West Side, and just barges in after she's gotten truth serum injected into her, and just is so rude and so funny to like all of the people there. She's like throwing her money at who she thinks is the ugliest so that they can get more treatments.
You need some help. I especially love her, the security guard who tries to stop her, where she's basically like, you have to decide. Do you want this job or do you want to live?
And so I was like, I don't think the story has to change a whole heck of a lot. I know that that's always a major concern. Obviously, they kind of can't do everything, but I still think the overall arc of the story is fairly strong, and I don't think that there has to be much reinterpretation. And in fact, I'd really like to see it kept as a period piece. I don't think I'd like to see it updated to 2010, because then you don't get that really fun thing, unless you kind of really artificially manufacture a situation where it's like, well, my power's out, so I can't look this up, so I have to put on my Rolling Stone CD and guess, or I don't know.
Well, and as much as I said, you know, it's a very 80s looking movie, the notion people have of what the 80s looked like today is not what you see in this movie. You know, it's not, hi Lola, she's back. It's not bright colors, it's not neon, it's not, look at it. It's a very bleached out world.
Well, but she is the brightest thing in it.
She is the brightest thing in it.
She wears yellow sneakers, has like a bright yellow coat. Yeah,
but see, all of that helps to show how much personality she has.
Especially on Wall Street.
Yeah,
and
there are little things like in the cast around her, like John Lovitz plays one of the other guys in the office. That's really his character. He's one of the other guys in the office. But he's got like a ball cap that he wears the entire time, which shows that like he's a fun guy. He's nowhere near as fun as she is, but he's a fun guy sort of thing. And I think in the middle of an 80s nostalgia boom, it would be nice to have a show that was an 80s period piece without being like, oh, hey, weren't the 80s wild?
Yeah, like the 80s prom or something. Like, it's basically just kind of, you know.
That you could have a character who's bright and exuberant, but also point out just, like, how many stuffed shirts were in the office with her.
Well, and that kindness wins. You know, it's like, she has a scene with her boss fairly early on where he is like, you need to end all of your transmissions with NTrans. You cannot give recipes. You cannot give dating advice. This is inappropriate. And, you know, you have to behave like a computer. And she's like, you know, she's very, like, I think a lot of people now would say, oh, yeah, no, you're right. I'm so sorry. I'd like to keep the job. And she's like, I'm not a computer. I am a person. Yeah. And I'm going to keep being a person. And I think that type of characters who you want to see as a hero is who you want to see succeed. You want to hope that, you know, in the case of standing up for people and doing this right, like she's trying to save this man and she goes to so many people to try to help her out and they just shut her down. Yeah. And she's always like, but we'll try one more thing, but we'll do one more thing. And I think that that's really kind of true of a lot of working women in the 80s. It's just they were problem solvers.
Setting up being one of the, being a human being who cares as essentially being a superpower.
Yeah.
And also, there's an interesting moment in there, with the name Terry.
Yeah.
Terry is a very gender neutral name. Like, a guy could be named Terry, a woman could be named Terry. There is the scene in the movie where Jack finds out in talking with her online that she is a woman. And he did not know that. He assumed.
Yes.
The name Terry works with computers.
Many conversations later.
Yeah. As he assumed, the name Terry works with computers in the financial sector. It's got to be a man. And finds out that that Terry is a woman. And there's a very interesting moment there of him saying, when she manages to get him contacts for an exit, going through the Duchess that Bree mentioned earlier, and she reveals that's who actually got things done. It wasn't the man who heads up the department at the embassy. That he's just like, maybe we should just let women take over the spy game completely. And she's like, yeah, then maybe we wouldn't have these situations to begin with.
Yeah.
And I think that would be an interesting moment to visit in our current world.
Yeah. But I was like, and I just like that, I think people are always looking for, like, messy characters. Like, you don't want somebody who's just, like, 100% good at everything or 100% right at everything. And there's a scene where she's in the, it's like the Queen's 50th anniversary or something. And she dresses like a Supreme to say she's the evening's entertainment because she didn't really have like a ball gown. She has like this costumey type of
evening dress. She couldn't manage to get an invite, couldn't manage to get an invitation or anything.
So she comes in and she lip syncs and anyway, so she has to go up to the control room where they're getting all the transmissions because that's the only way that if she puts in the device that Jack can then pull his own exit code. And so she gets her dress stuck in the shredder.
Yes.
And I think like that's just what I just really love about Terry Doolittle as a character is that she is super smart and she is super brave, but there's still these moments of being brutally awkward and honest and, just saying, okay, my dress is all shredded up, but I did it. It's like, we're all a mess, but we're okay.
And it's not like there's a tendency in romance and romantic adventure that it's like, oh, well, she has to have a flaw. Character has to have a flaw. Oh, what a klutz she is. It's not that. It's
just
very...
everything happens to her.
It's very real human things that just happen. That just happens to be an example. There's another one where she gets catcalled on the street. And her initial reaction to this is just like, oh, this again. And having to like brush these three guys off and get away from them because it's a dangerous situation. She's a woman alone on the street at night. And she's got three guys following her asking her if she wants to party. And she just manages to get to the point of them leaving her alone when she sees a spy who has been chasing her and trying to kill her all along pull up in front of her, and she has to make that last-minute calculation of, hey, you three guys, I changed my mind!
And I think like that's what's really kind of endearing, because I think we've all had those days where, oh my gosh, this only happens to me. Like, everything bad only happens to me. But she also has, like, a lot of luck. I mean, and I think that they kind of show that at the beginning as well, is she doesn't really take guff from any guys, which is great. Like, this guy falls asleep on her on the bus, and she's like, no, we're not doing that. But also, like, when she gets on the bus, they make a point of showing her getting on the bus and the person behind her being shut out. So I think that she kind of has this natural bit of luck. So I feel like these are all moments that in a film translate really well to a visual medium, but since we can't direct your eye on those things, like in a bigger stage, these are perfect opportunities for songs, for her to kind of have these like singing type of moments and for her to be able to kind of like express her story this way. I don't know if we would see Jack sooner because kind of the thing that we also use in the film is they both speak back and forth. She speaks to her computer and she imagines what Jack sounds like whenever he types. So, I mean, maybe that might be something. A musical that we talked about while watching this that I really, really love. It's done by professionals, but it was done in Los Angeles, so it's not really a Broadway musical. Still a great musical. There's this group called the Tin Can Brothers. They're a branch off of some people who were in Star Kid. And they have this musical, which I really love, called Spies Are Forever. Mm-hmm. And there's the moment where they're trying to torture her by saying, we're going to shoot you and cut off your fingers and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And there's a scene in Spies Are Forever called Somebody's Gotta Do It, where the villain who loves torture is thinking, well, somebody's gotta do it, so it might as well be me. And I'm just like, there's already, like, a really fantastic precedent for this type of spy musical. And even though, like, that one was, like, kind of parody and a little bit farcical, I mean, this is a comedy, so I think you can kind of go there. You know, I think you can kind of be a bit dramatic, you can be a little silly. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's going into the two guys trying to, like, cut off her fingers. I'm like, But, I mean, I think that would be open to possibility. Yes. I mean, the worst thing that would happen is it doesn't work and you rewrite, but... Yeah.
You get the feedback cards from the audience that are like, I was really turned off by the moment when we had a happy Calypso song about cutting off fingers.
Yep.
And you go, well, throw that song out, let's try something else.
But no, I think there's, like, fantastic characters. I think there's a lot of room for this type of story. You know, I think it's just real nuanced. And, again, I don't have any songs written. I wish I had, like, some fantastic pitch already ready to go. Soundtrack, from what I remember, was okay. I don't think it was, like, you know, one of my top favorite 80s soundtracks out of everything.
It's a good soundtrack.
But I think that, you know, with the Pointer Sisters and Aretha Franklin and the Rolling Stones, I mean, I think you have a lot of things there to pull from, but I think, like, I'd love to see, you know, maybe, like, get Alan Menken and have him write some songs.
Well, and I'll say this, because we talked about all of the 80s movies that we could have done, and I think it was last time, it wasn't this stream, but you mentioned, like, your other choice would have been Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes.
And I feel like this is a movie where, as long as you have Jumping Jack Flash, you could do whatever you wanted with the rest of the songs.
Right.
Beverly Hills Cop has such an iconic soundtrack with things like the Neutron Dance and all of that I don't think you could get away from that being a jukebox musical.
I mean, and you really kind of have to have Axel F.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the only reason why I'd really like to see it be a musical is I'd love to see whoever picked lyrics for it. Like, I don't think you can do lyrics. I don't think that'd be the way to go. But you just know that there's a pitch out there that's doing, like, the Family Guy bit. Where they're writing lyrics to this.
Yes.
So...
Here comes Axel. Here comes Axel.
Yes. So, I mean, basically, I hope you guys kind of enjoyed it. If nothing else, please go watch the movie. It's super great. It's about an hour and a half. Like, it's not a super long movie. It has so many comedic bits. Like, I could not believe when I looked it up on, like, Rotten Tomatoes and everything. Like, oh, it's 50%. Like, I mean...
What?
I know. I was like, not everybody's favorite. I totally get it. And it's not, like, I think, if you think of, like, all the movies in 1986, it was probably not even, like, the top 10 then. But it's still a great movie. I think it's really compelling. I think it's a fantastic story. I'd love to see it remade. I'd love to see it be a musical. I can just see young women wanting to do this type of role. Like, I mean, it's not only romantic, it's adventure, it's espionage, it's, you know, I mean, it's really just... I think something that you would only get if you're playing, like, a pirate on stage or something. Like, there's not many characters I can think of where you get to be everything.
And it's also, talking about it, romance and adventure and things like that, it's one of the few instances you can find of a female main character where the action and the intrigue are the primary focus of her story, and the romance is secondary. In many ways, that's a feature almost exclusive to male main characters in that era and that type of film. That if it's a female character, then the romance has got to be primary. But for her, it's not. It's written similar to the way that, like, The Man with One Red Shoe was written or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's kind of like Mission Impossible with, like, a very, very, like, side story of You Got Mail.
Yeah. That's a good... There's your elevator pitch right there. All right. Jumpin' Jack Flash, the musical. It's...
You ready? 1985, 1986, Mission Impossible meets You Got Mail.
Yes. There you go. That's the pitch. That's all you need right there. We just pitched this successfully, I might add, in a New York City elevator.
But I love the idea. I was like, I wish I had some contacts to be a Broadway producer or to be a Broadway, like, musical creator or something. I mean, if I start now, I'm sure in 12 years it'll all work out. But no, I was like, I highly, highly recommend it. I think it's super fun. I think it's really compelling. I'd watch it. I think it would make a ton of money if you get the right person in the lead. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I think it could be good.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's our show for today.
That's it.
On Saturday, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. We will be back, and it'll be my turn to pitch now.
Hey!
And I will be doing Om Shanti Om, my adaptation idea for Om Shanti Om, which is a Bollywood film starring Shah Rukh Khan. Just an amazing movie. A movie that has drama, romance, intrigue, reincarnation, second chances.
Great music.
Yes, and just some phenomenal lines in general. And also, if you know anything about Bollywood, it's also one of those films that comes along, like in America, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, where it's just like everybody who is anybody in Bollywood wanted a line in this movie. Yeah. So, and I'm really looking forward to pitching this. I've got some great ideas for how the show would go. Anything else we want to talk about real quick?
No, I mean, I think that's about it. One of the things that I know that we've had a debate about, and something that you might want to think about. So if you find a version of Om Shanti Om, either to watch the video or to maybe get the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack is on Apple iTunes or however you buy music on Apple now. We kept debating this, and we'll talk about this on Saturday. Should the songs be translated?
Yes. Should the songs be in English? Or should the songs be in the original Hindi? And even then, we have a little bit of a debate about if they are in Hindi, should you provide, like, English super titles for a production?
But that's one thing I kind of want to leave you guys with. I want you to think about it. You know, of course, comment down in the comments in our YouTube, or you can feel free to tweet at us again. Please keep on coming on with those Turkey Lurkey Time entries. Yeah. We are really going to wait until Friday, and we'll go ahead and mail things out probably that weekend.
Yes, and there's our Twitters right there on the screen.
So we want to hear about Jumpin' Jack Flash or Om Shanti Om, or what do you think Turkey Lurkey Time is?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear it in the comments. We'd love to hear it on Twitter. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. We love you. Stay safe out there. If I could disinfect the world, I would. I want to go outside, but I'm not crazy. I want to live. So I'm going to stay here until like mid-June.
All right.
I hope you will too.
Have a good night, Jenny, and namaste, Bristol. We love you. Take care of yourself, because, you know, we're not there to take care of you.
Want to say bye, Lola? Lola says bye.
Lola says bye. Bye, everybody.